Okay, there we go. I fixed it. Oh, my mother is calling me. Mother, go. Shoo, mother. Shoo, mother. Mother, shoo. I must be gone. I'm streaming. Mother, go away. Mom, mom, go away. Mom. If I yell at her, she'll leave me alone. Mom, go. Leave me be. Mother, why is she still calling me? Okay, she's gone. She's gone now. She's disappeared. She's gone. She's gone. She can't hurt you, you guys. She can't hurt you. Hello. Hi. Welcome. Oh, I didn't get the chance to really eat today. So I have been snacking. Well, snacking is a strong word. But I've been munching on some food. Some fajitas. So if I have stuff in my mouth, I'm really, really sorry. I was like, I shouldn't eat before I do a reading stream because it's gonna affect my ability to talk. It's gonna affect my ability to make mouth sounds, and that's what I need to do specifically for this stream. So yeah. But hello, welcome, hi Legacy, hi Black Garuga, hello everybody. If you have noticed, a few redeems have been turned off just because of the essence of the stream. It's not very ASMR, not very calm, cool and collected or book vibey if we have alerts popping off. So oh my god, I just noticed the title of the book your VTuber is reading. Yeah, you can thank Llama for that. That was a little treat because Llama was helping me with setting some stuff up, and Llama added that. And I was and he was like, I can change it if you don't want it to be on there. And I said, absolutely not, keep it there. Absolutely not. What do you mean? What are you talking about? This is so true to life. So it's a little Easter egg. It's a little nice Easter egg. Why is my mouth not moving? Oh, I know why it's not moving. Wait, guys, I can talk. Give me a second. There we go. Mic off. No. Mic off. Mic is not off though. Mic isn't off. Mic is on. Why does it say mic off? What? Okay, give me a second, you guys. Give me a second. Why does it say mic off? My mic is on. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm sorry. E E E E E E Ooh, 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 ooh. Eh, oh, 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 oh. 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 Why? Girl? Does that sound like the consonant I'm making? What the heck is going on with my mouth right now? Everything is flipsy flopsy. Ah. E. Ooh. Ooh. Eh. Oh. 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 Ah. Hi guys. Hi guys. No, it's not connected to a different mic. I literally selected the mic that I use. We're just gonna have to deal with janky mouth. We're just gonna have to deal with janky mouth, okay? Imagine people coming into here reading and it's just noises. Today we'll read text written in Abyssal and it's just how shake up is Ooh, that'd be really cool if Abyssal was just like throat. Like a I don't know like how to describe it other than like a deep guttural like throat language. That'd be really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Who's telling me to stretch when we've just started? You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. Legacy, you're gonna have to wait because I don't know who you think you are. Emily, hello. Hi, welcome. Just to let people know, in case it wasn't obvious, this is an 18+ stream. I don't normally say this at the beginning because typically it's everywhere and you should be able to read. Everybody should have the ability to read. Use social media, you can read. However, the story that we're going to be reading today is it's a lot. It is a lot. Let me find it. Yeah, it is a lot. So because there's a ton of short stories in the book that we're going to be reading today. The book being The Bloody Chamber, which is very apt because your girl is on her period right now. Your girl is on her period right now, and it's not been fun. It's actually whenever I'm on my period, it pisses me off. I don't know if I can say that. It drives me insane. It drives me absolutely insane, right? And like, oh my god, I saw something on Twitter that was like, I was like scrolling through Twitter and it was like tips for menstruation tips, go. And I was like, oh, cool, menstruation tips. This is before I found out I was on my period. I was like, oh, cool, menstruation tips. I would like to know how to deal with, complications of menstruation. Let's go. And then all the comments in the thread were just like really weird. They were like, don't lie down. Make sure that you sit up a bit to get maximum efforts out of the experience. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then other people were like, oh, make sure you prep yourself beforehand so that. And I'm like, what is everyone talking about? And I was like, this thread is full of shit. This thread's full of shit. They don't want to talk about helping me with menstruation. Ugh. And then when I clicked out of the thread, I reread the text in the tweet, and it said masturbation tips, not menstruation. And I was like, this makes sense now. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's not for me. That's not for me. I'm gone. So I just moved on. But it was just, I was like, God damn it, guys. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to just, Toto, hello. Blessing the rains down in Africa. Live, hello, hi, hola, hi. Welcome to the stream. As I said, this is 18+ stream. Don't girl me, Black Gruga, don't girl me. Anyone could have made that mistake, okay? Anyone could have made that mistake. They seem similarly spelt. Okay, anyone could have made that mistake. But today we're doing an ASMR gothic reading. We're doing an ASMR gothic reading. I do this once a month because I am determined to get people to read more books, because everybody says, I don't have enough time. I don't have time to read. I don't know what to read. I don't like reading. So I'm going to do the reading for you. And all you have to do is listen. You can wash the dishes. You can drive your car. You can shop in a mall. And other various activities. Whoa, 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 whoa. You could do so many things, you guys. So yeah. And also it helps me as well, because sometimes I get so wrapped up in things that I forget to read the plethora of books that are on my bookshelf. So this way I can get through my reading list as well. But to Legacy's lore question, no. You said in lore that people can change their body shape and form and stuff with magic in your lore. Does that include me changing myself into a giant city destroying kaiju? No. You have to be a very specific kind of person and have a very specific kind of ability in order to do that. And you are unfortunately not that. So you do not have access to those abilities. Yeah. Unfortunate, but womp womp, I guess. Womp womp. Womp womp. Womp womp. Womp 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 womp. No kaiju for you. Womp womp. Hello, Ike Spider. Hello. Redeem your boba. Yeah. And then goodbye. Yep, that's the sequence. That's the sequence of events with Arc Spider. He pops in, he redeems his boba, and then he fucks off. I'm joking, Arc Spider. I hope you're doing good. So before we dive in, the stories you guys picked, right? Because The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter are a selection of short stories, 10 short stories that are grim fairy tales told from a feminist perspective. And I've said this before, but I will always say it because I want people to be aware that it contains a lot of stuff that requires you to be able to handle it. It has a lot of implications. It is a lot about womanhood, woman experiences, and therefore sometimes the horror of woman experience. Well, it mainly is the horror of woman experience. So a lot of these stories mention, portray, and may include, but is not limited to, the following. I hope you're all listening. Adult and minor relationships, death, pedophilia, rape, sexual assault, sexual content, sexual violence, toxic relationships, violence, murder, cannibalism, addiction, confinement, and the blood. So, should you find any of these topics disturbing, don't hesitate to take a break or mute the stream. This book is a collection of short stories, so depending on the length of the story, we will be taking regular breaks. The 2 stories that you picked, because again, there are 10 in this book, and I was like, do you guys want me to read all of these short stories, or do you want me to just read a couple of these short stories? The first one that we read last stream was called The Bloody Chamber, which is the title of the book. And the other 2, the top 2 that you guys picked was The Snow Child and The Lady of the House of Love, which ironically are the 2 stories that come right after the other in the book. So that's really easy for me. So yeah, should anyone or like the majority or the collective wish to stop, I will create a poll over on the Purple app for a majority vote on how you would like to proceed. Either go ahead or finish reading for the night. Then we'll have a check-in after stream to see if you'd like to continue with this book or move on to the next. Now, that is typically what I'd say, but these 2 stories are going to be the last 2 stories that I read from this book before we move on to our next book. So, with that in mind, are you all ready? Do you have your drinks and your beverages? I do. Drinks, beverages, snackies. Are you laying down comfortably? You know? Pin trigger warning in chat. Yep, will do. I am multitasking, friend. Please have patience. Do you have... What I want right now, I was gonna do it, but then I forgot. I was gonna get my hot water bottle, which Llama and Eliotto got for me. It is a Kuromi water bottle to put on my stomach because menstruation times are not fun. When you have PCOS, it's not fun. It's fine. All right. As mentioned, I will be pinning it seems like a lot, but a lot of the stuff in the story is like implicated. You know what I mean? It's like symbolic and you get the gist of it. It's surrounded and decorated in a lot of metaphor. However, given that you guys picked the Snow Child, which I wasn't expecting, because that I haven't read these stories in a while, so I don't know how it's going to go, but I know bad things happen in the Snow Child, and I don't know how direct it's going to be with the bad things. So, you know, just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. I want you guys to be safe. Reading safely is a good time. Where emote? I don't know. What emote are you looking for? Boo! My mom's making prawns! She said she would give me some. She said. My redeem? Oh, they redeem prison chat? Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. Thought you were coming down? What do you mean you thought I was coming down? Who said I was coming down on Tuesday? I would never say I was coming down on Tuesday. Oh, mother. Guys, wait. I'm going through emotional turmoil right now. There we go. Right. Trigger warnings. They're attached to the top of the screen. Yes. I'm just gonna type, please be sure to check trigger warnings. Take frequent breaks. I love you guys. I didn't need to type that out, I realize. But you know what? It's in chat. Fart says tacos. I do love tacos. I have some fajitas behind me, waiting and cold. But thank you. What's the red app? The red app is the app where you watch content and is red. You can figure it out. You got it. You got it. Give me a second. Yep. Like shorts? I can't say it because otherwise the clock app will shut me down. So that's why I'm being very careful with what I say and how I say it. But welcome, Bunnix. Bunnix. I'm gonna say Bunnix because that is a really cute name. Bunnix, hello, welcome. Farting your way over here. Welcome. As I said, please be sure that you are 18 plus, just because the story that we are going to read today is very a lot. The stories we're going to read today may or may not be very a lot. So just be warned. Okay? Just be warned. Alright. Right. I'll hit the road then, peace. Yes, please. I want you guys to be protected and not to be traumatized. When you're the right age, you can definitely be traumatized, and I'm more than happy to help you with that. But until then, I'm not looking to traumatize anybody before they are of age to be traumatized, I guess. Alright, okay. Let us... Oh, no, wrong page. Where is it? God damn it. Also, the story that we are about to read, The Snow Child, is, fun fact, the shortest story out of all of the 10 stories in this book. I'm going to drink some water and then I shall begin. Nope, that's a Pepsi can. Where's my water? There's my water. Oh, and whilst I'm getting my water, you guys have been put in jail over on the Purple app, so give me a moment. There we go. There you go, Ox Spider. Live your best life. Carolina says, oh, you're so cute. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for thinking that I'm cute. Thank you, thank you. We're reading a book. It's not the Twinks, Tops, and Tatties. It's another book. I assure you. Alright, where's my water? That's what I wanted. Mama wanted water. And then we shall get started. I'm gonna put it on this side of me. Where are we? Okay. I'm gonna release you guys from your prison. Okay. So, this is The Snow Child by Angela Carter from the book The Bloody Chamber. Midwinter, invincible, immaculate, the Count and his wife go riding. He on a grey mare and she on a black one. She wrapped in the glittering pelts of black foxes, and she wore high black shining boots with scarlet heels and spurs. Fresh snow fell on snow already fallen. When it ceased, the whole world was white. I wish I had a girl as white as snow, says the Count. They ride on. They come to a hole in the snow. This hole is filled with blood. He says, I wish I had a girl as red as blood. So they ride on again. Here is a raven perched on a bare bough. I wish I had a girl as black as that bird's feather. As soon as he completed her description, there she stood, beside the road, white skin, red mouth, black hair, and stark naked. She was the child of his desire, and the Countess hated her. The Count lifted her up and sat her in front of him on his saddle, but the Countess had only one thought. How shall I be rid of her? The Countess dropped her glove in the snow and told the girl to get down to look for it. She meant to gallop off and leave her there, but the Count said, I'll buy you new gloves. At that, the furs sprang off the Countess's shoulders and twined around the naked girl. Then the Countess threw her diamond brooch through the ice in a frozen pond. Dive in and fetch it for me, she said. She thought the girl would drown. But the Count said, Is she a fish? To swim in such cold weather? Then her boots leapt off the Countess's feet and onto the girl's legs. Now the Countess was bare as a bone, and the girl furred and booted. The Count felt sorry for his wife. They came to a bush of roses, all in flower. Pick me one, said the Countess to the girl. I can't deny you that, said the Count. So the girl picks a rose, pricks her finger on the thorn, bleeds, screams, falls. Weeping, the Count got off his horse, unfastened his breeches, and thrust his virile member into the dead girl. The Countess reined in her stamping mare and watched him narrowly. He was soon finished. Then the girl began to melt. Soon there was nothing left of her but a feather a bird might have dropped, a blood stain, like the trace of a fox's kill on the snow, and the rose she had pulled off the bush. Now the Countess had all her clothes on again. With her long hand, she stroked her furs. The Count picked up the rose, bowed, and handed it to his wife. When she touched it, she dropped it. "It bites," she said. That was the end of The Snow Child. Shortest story in the Bloody Chamber. And yeah. Okay, here's the thing. English student coming in here. It's very fast. Very fast, very disjointed, very blunt. There is no dancing. There's no plot, right? And there is a lot to be said. I didn't like the ending. Yeah. There is a lot to be said. You know? Let's break it down. Let's think about it, right? This man desires a girl with, skin like snow, with lips as red as blood, with hair as black as a raven's feather. And when that girl appears, the Countess is robbed of her objects, is robbed of the things that, establish her relationship with the Count, which is what we see from this story. And it is very... there is a lot to be said, and I won't go too deep into it. But there is a lot to be said about the jealousy of the Countess. A lot to be said of the Count desiring a younger... It's a child. A younger virgin creature seen as an aspect of purity. There is a lot to be said on the fact that the moment that purity and virginity is of no longer use to him, or when it is taken too soon or is about to leave too soon, he takes it into his own hands to take what he wants regardless. And the Countess stands there watching, knowing what he does, without remorse, because she takes the clothes and puts it back on. There's a lot more that I could go into. Like, is she so used to it because that's what he does to her, or did to her? How long have they been married? We don't know, but there is so much in so little. But as I said, it is one of the shortest stories in the book. I'm gonna take a little sippy of water. Carolina, thank you for the follow. Thank you. For those of you new here, I know that was quite a wild story to jump in with, but my name is Astaroth. I am a Twilight Demon villainess, and I like to play indie storytelling games, as well as educate people on storytelling by reading books. My goal is to get people to read more books, even if I have to read it to them. If I have to sit you down and read it to you. As I said, the stories are very dark. With the Bloody Chamber, it was a lot more flowery, and I think it's more flowery in the Bloody Chamber, the sexual assault. I think it's more flowery because there is a part of her that believes she's in love with the Marquis. However, this is just a girl conjured from his imagination, a girl conjured from his desires, which he uses in whatever way he pleases, and leaves. He cares not, because the purpose is done. Yeah, having to read a sentence like he thrusts his virile member into the dead girl is very wild. Very, very wild. Never thought I'd say that on stream, but hey ho. Let me see, give me a second. Give me 1 second. Sorry, friend was just messaging me. And other people messaging me. What is going on? I'm never this popular. I was sitting in my house for however long. Get out of here. Stop messaging me. No one cares. Okay. Right, the next story that we're going to read is The Lady of the House of Love. I will sip my water and then we shall continue with that one. Again, I did tell you it was very short. It is the shortest story. The shortest story in the Bloody Chamber. But to the people who enjoy grim fairy tales told from a feminist perspective, if you would like to go and pick up The Bloody Chamber, I highly recommend you do so. The copy that I have was $8.99, but that's because it's the vintage classic version. You know, I'm sure there's other versions, editions, copies that you can get out there, but I highly recommend it. There are a ton of other stories. There are 7 other stories other than the ones that I've read to you on stream that are included, and it includes tales like Puss in Boots and things like that. But yes, let us continue, adventurers. Okay. So this is The Lady of the House of Love, which is, I believe, like a vampire Cinderella retelling, I believe, with a mix of some other fairy tale, I believe. At last, the revenants became so troublesome, the peasants abandoned the village, and it fell solely into the possession of subtle and vindictive inhabitants who manifest their presences by shadows that fall almost imperceptibly awry. Too many shadows, even at midday, shadows that have no source in anything visible. By the sound, sometimes, of sobbing in a derelict bedroom where a cracked mirror suspended from a wall does not reflect a presence. By a sense of unease that will afflict the traveller unwise enough to pause to drink from the fountain in the square that still gushes spring water from a faucet stuck in a stone lion's mouth. A cat prowls in a weedy garden. He grins and spits, arches his back, bounces away from an intelligible on four fear-stiffened legs. Now, all shun the village below the chateau in which the beautiful sorry, there are some words in this book that I cannot read, somnambulist helplessly perpetuates her ancestral crimes. So, give me a second, because I can't remember what that means. Somnambulist. A somnambulist is a person who engages in activities while asleep. A sleepwalker. Oh. Okay, interesting. A sleepwalker. Wearing an antique bridal gown, the beautiful queen of the vampires sits all alone in her dark, high house, under the eyes of the portraits of her demented and atrocious ancestors, each one of whom, through her, projects a baleful posthumous existence. She counts out the tarot cards, ceaselessly construing a constellation of possibilities, as if the random fall of the cards on the plush red tablecloth before her could precipitate her from her chill, shuttered room into a country of perpetual summer and obliterate the perennial sadness of a girl who is both death and the maiden. Her voice is filled with distant sonorities, like reverberations in a cave. Now you are at the place of annihilation. Now you are at the place of annihilation. And she is herself a cave full of echoes. She is a system of repetitions. She is a closed circuit. Can a bird sing only the song it knows, or can it learn a new song? She draws her long, sharp fingernail across the bars of the cage in which her pet lark sings, striking a plangent twang like that of the pluck hark strings of a woman of metal. Her hair falls down like tears. The castle is mostly given over to ghostly occupants, but she herself has her own suite of drawing room and bedroom. Closely barred shutters and heavy velvet curtains keep out every leak of natural light. There is a round table on a single leg, covered with a red plush cloth on which she lays out her inevitable tarot. This room is never more than faintly illuminated by a heavily shaded lamp on the mantelpiece, and the dark red-figured wallpaper is obscurely, distressingly patterned by the rain that drives in through the neglected roof and leaves behind it random areas of staining, ominous marks like those left on the streets by dead lovers. Depredations of rot and fungus everywhere. The unlit chandeliers so heavy with dust, the individual prisms no longer show any shapes. Industrious spiders have woven canopies in the corners of this ornate and rotting place, have trapped the porcelain vases on the mantelpiece in soft grey nets. But the mistress of all this disintegration notices nothing. She sits in a chair covered in moth-ravaged burgundy velvet at the low, round table and distributes the cards. Sometimes the lark sings, but more often remains a sullen mound of drab feathers. Sometimes the Countess will wake it for a brief cadenza by strumming the bars of its cage. She likes to hear it announce how it cannot escape. She rises when the sun sets and goes immediately to her table, where she plays her game of patience until she grows hungry, until she grows ravenous. She's so beautiful, she is unnatural. Her beauty is an abnormality, a deformity, for none of her features exhibit any of those touching imperfections that reconcile us to the imperfection of the human condition. Her beauty is a symptom of her disorder, of her soullessness. The white hands of the tenebrous bell deal the hand of destiny. Her fingernails are longer than those of the mandarins of ancient China, and each is pared to a fine point. These and teeth as fine and white as spikes of spun sugar are the visible signs of the destiny she wistfully attempts to evade via the arcana. Her claws and teeth have been sharpened on centuries of corpses. She is the last bud of the poison tree that sprung from the loins of Vlad the Impaler, who picnicked on corpses in the forests of Transylvania. The walls of her bedroom are hung with black satin, embroidered with tears of a pearl. At the room's four corners are funerary urns and bowls which emit slumberous, pungent fumes of incense. In the center is an elaborate catafalque in ebony, surrounded by long candles in enormous silver candlesticks. In a white lace negligee, stained a little with blood, the Countess climbs up on her catafalque at dawn each morning and lies down in an open coffin. A Shigund priest of the Orthodox faith staked out her wicked father at a Carpathian crossroad before her milk teeth grew. Just as they staked him out, the fatal count cried, "Nosferatu is dead! Long live Nosferatu!" Now she possesses all the haunted forests and mysterious habitations of his vast domain. She is the hereditary commandant of the army of shadows who camp in the village below her chateau, who perpetuate the woods in the form of owls, bats, and foxes, who make the milk curdle and the butter refuse to come, who ride the horses all night on a wild hunt, so they are sacks of skin and bone in the morning, who milk the cows dry and especially torment pubescent girls with fainting fits, disorders of the blood, diseases of the imagination. But the Countess herself is indifferent to her own weird authority, as if she were dreaming it. In her dream, she would like to be human, but she does not know if that is possible. The tarot always shows the same configurations. Always, she turns up la papisse, la mort, le tour à boile, wisdom, death, dissolution. On moonless nights, her keeper lets her out into the garden. This garden, an exceedingly somber place, bears a strong resemblance to a burial ground, and all the roses her dead mother planted have grown up into huge spiked walls that incarcerate her in the castle of her inheritance. When the back door opens, the Countess will sniff the air and howl. She drops now on all fours, crouching, quivering. She catches the scent of her prey. Delicious crunch of the fragile bones of rabbits and small, furry things she pursues with fleet, four-footed speed. She will creep home, whimpering, with blood smeared on her cheeks. She pours water from the ewer in her bedroom into a bowl. She washes her face with the wincing, fastidious gestures of a cat. The voracious margin of a huntress's nights in the gloomy garden crouch and pounce surrounds her habitual tormented somnambulism. Her life or imitation of life. The eyes of this nocturnal creature enlarge and glow, all claws and teeth. She strikes, she gorges, but nothing can console her for the ghastliness of her condition. Nothing. She resorts to the magic comfort of the tarot pack and shuffles the cards, lays them out, reads them, gathers them up with a sigh, shuffles them again, constantly constructing hypotheses about a future which is irreversible. An old mute looks after her to make sure she never sees the sun, that all day she stays in her coffin, to keep mirrors and all reflective surfaces away from her. In short, to perform all the functions of the servants of vampires. Everything about this beautiful and ghastly lady is as it should be. Queen of night, queen of terror, except her horrible reluctance for the role. Nevertheless, if an unwise adventurer pauses in the square of the deserted village to refresh himself at the fountain, a crone in a black dress and white apron presently emerges from a house. She will invite you with smiles and gestures. You will follow her. The Countess wants fresh meat. When she was a little girl, she was like a fox and contented herself entirely with baby rabbits that squeaked piteously as she bit into their necks with a nauseated voluptuousness, with voles and field mice that palpitated for a bare moment between her broidness's fingers. But now she is a woman. She must have men. If you stop too long beside the giggling fountain, you will be held by the hand to the Countess's larder. All day she lies in her coffin in her negligee of blood-stained lace. When the sun drops behind the mountain, she yawns and stirs and puts on the only dress she has, her mother's wedding dress, to sit and read her cards until she grows hungry. She loathes the food she eats. She would have liked to take the rabbits home with her, feed them on lettuce, pet them, and make them a nest in her red and black chinoiserie French words. But hunger always overcomes her. She sinks her teeth into the neck where an artery throbs with fear. She will drop the deflated skin from which she has extracted all the nourishment with a small cry of both pain and disgust. And it is the same with the shepherd boys and the gypsy lads, who, ignorant and foolhardy, come to wash the dust from their feet in the water of the fountain. The Countess's governess brings them into the drawing room where the cards on the table always show the Grim Reaper. The Countess herself will serve them coffee in tiny cracked precious cups and little sugar cakes. The hobbledehoys sit with a spilling cup in one hand and a biscuit in the other, gaping at the Countess in her satin finery as she pours from a silver pot and chatters distractedly to put them at their final ease. A certain desolate stillness of her eyes indicates she is inconsolable. She would like to caress their lean brown cheeks and stroke their ragged hair. When she takes them by the hand and leads them to her bedroom, they can scarcely believe their luck. Afterwards, her governess will tidy the remains into a neat pile and wrap it in its own discarded clothes. This mortal parcel she then discreetly buries in the garden. The blood on the Countess's cheeks will be mixed with tears. Her keeper probes her fingernails for her with a little silver toothpick to get rid of the fragments of skin and bone that have lodged there. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. One hot, ripe summer, in the pubescent years of the present century, a young officer in the British Army, blonde, blue-eyed, heavy-muscled, visiting friends in Vienna, decided to spend the remainder of his furlough exploring the little-known uplands of Romania. When he quixotically decided to travel the rutted cart tracks by bicycle, he saw all the humour of it. On 2 wheels in the land of the vampires. So, laughing, he sets out on his adventure. He has the special quality of virginity, most and least ambiguous of states. Ignorance, yet at the same time, power in potentia, and furthermore unknowingness, which is not the same as ignorance. He is more than he knows, and has about him, besides the special glamour of that generation for whom history has already prepared a special exemplary fate in the trenches of France. This being, rooted in change and time, is about to collide with the timeless Gothic eternity of the vampires, for whom all is as it has always been and will be, whose cards always fall in the same pattern. Although so young, he is also rational. He has chosen the most rational mode of transport in the world for his trip around the Carpathians. To ride a bicycle is in itself some protection against superstitious fears, since the bicycle is the product of reason, the product of pure reason applied to motion, geometry at the service of man. Give me 2 spheres and a straight line, and I will show you how far I can take them. Voltaire himself might have invented the bicycle, since it contributes so much to a man's welfare and nothing at all to his bane. Beneficial to the health. It emits no harmful fumes and permits only the most decorous speeds. How can a bicycle ever be an implement of harm? A single kiss woke up the sleeping beauty in the wood. The waxen fingers of the Countess, fingers of a holy image, turn up the card called Les Amoureux. Give me a second, my phone is dying. There we go, phone is dying. I'm alive. Never before. Stop it. There we go. Never before has the Countess cast herself a fate involving love. She shakes, she trembles, her great eyes close beneath her finely veined, nervously fluttering eyelids. The lovely cartomancer has, this time, the first time, dealt herself a hand of love and death. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. At the Moorish beginnings of evening, the English toils up the hill to the village he glimpsed from a great way off. He must dismount and push his bicycle before him, the path too steep to ride. He hopes to find a friendly inn to rest the night. He's hot, hungry, thirsty, weary, dusty. At first, such disappointment to discover the roofs of all the cottages caved in, and tall weeds thrusting through the piles of fallen tiles. Shutters hanging disconsolately from their hinges, an entirely uninhabited place. And the rank vegetation, almost said something wrong there, whispers as if foul secrets here where, if one were sufficiently imaginative, one could almost imagine twisted faces appearing momentarily beneath the crumbling eaves. But the adventure of it all, and the consolation of a poignant brightness of the hollyhocks still bravely blooming in the shaggy gardens, and the beauty of all the flaming sunsets, all this consideration soon overcame his disappointment, even assuaged the faint unease he felt. And the fountain where the village women used to wash their clothes still gushed out bright, clear water. He gratefully washed his hands and feet, applied his mouth to the faucet, and then let the icy stream run over his face. When he raised his dripping, gratified head from the lion's mouth, he saw, silently, arrived beside him in the square, an old woman who smiled eagerly. She wore a black dress and a white apron with a housekeeper's key ring at the waist. Her grey hair was neatly coiled in a chingnon, there we go, beneath the white linen headdress worn by elderly women of that region. She bobbed a curtsy at the young man and beckoned him to follow her. When he hesitated, she pointed towards the great bulk of the mansion above them, whose facade lorded over the village, rubbed her stomach and pointed to her mouth, rubbed her stomach again, clearly miming an invitation to supper. Then she beckoned him, this time turning determinedly upon her heel as though she would brook no opposition. A great, intoxicated surge of the heavy scent of red roses blew into his face as soon as they left the village, inducing a sensuous vertigo. A blast of rich, faintly corrupt sweetness, strong enough almost to fell him. Too many roses. Too many roses bloomed on enormous thickets that lined the path, thickets bristling with thorns, and the flowers themselves were almost too luxuriant. their huge congregations of plush petals somehow obscene in their excess. Their hold, their tightly budded cores outrageous in their implications, the mansion emerged grudgingly out of this jungle. In the subtle and haunting light of the setting sun, that golden light, rich with nostalgia for the day that is just past, the somber visage of the place. Part manor house, part fortified farmhouse, immense, rambling, and dilapidated eagle's nest atop the crag down, which its attendant village meandered, reminded him of childhood tales on winter evenings, when he and his brothers and sisters scared themselves half out of their wits with ghost stories set in just such places, and then had to have candles to light them up newly terrifying stairs to bed. He could almost have regretted accepting the crone's unspoken invitation, but now, standing before the door of time-eroded oak, while she selected a huge iron key from the clanking ringful at her waist, he knew it was too late to turn back, and briskly reminded himself he was no child, now, to be frightened of his own fancies. The old lady unlocked the door, which swung back on melodramatically creaking hinges, and fussily took charge of his bicycle in spite of his protests. He felt a certain involuntary sinking of the heart. To see his beautiful two-wheeled symbol of rationality vanish into the dark entrails of the mansion, to, no doubt, some damp outhouse where they would not oil it or check its tires. But, in for a penny, in for a pound. In his youth and strength and blonde beauty, in the invisible, even unacknowledged pentacle of his virginity, the young man stepped over the threshold of Nosferatu's castle, and did not shiver in the blast of cold air, as from the mouth of a grave that emitted from the lightless, cavernous interior. Give me a second. Okay, we're going to take a little pause there. We're going to take a little breaky. There. Yeah. We're going to take a little breaky. Not the bicycle. Yeah, home girl. Can't believe the vampire saw her bicycle. That's crazy. That's crazy. Can't vampires get their own bikes, guys? Can't vampires get their own bikes? That's a little lame of you to steal someone's bike, you know? But we're gonna take a little short break, so stand up, stretch, go get yourself, I don't know, some cool shit. Go take a little walk around. Yeah, take a little walk around, get some water. I'm going to slurp my drink. And also eat some of my fajita, because it's been sitting there sadly, and you know, I don't want it to just be there sadly. I gotta eat it. I gotta eat it sometime, guys. But yeah, hello Elru, hello. I am sorry that you missed the initial reading for the Snow Child. It was very quick. It was very quick and very short. It is literally, the Snow Child is literally one side of a page and not even a fourth of the page behind it. It is really friggin' short. It's really friggin' short. But if we're currently reading The Lady of the House of Love, I know some people mentioned in chat that they bought The Bloody Chamber to read the other stories in their own time, which makes me very, 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 very happy. I'm glad that I can introduce these stories to you guys enough that you would go out and buy it and have your own copies. Because, you know, it's... These aren't entry-level books. I say this because, as you can tell with me struggling, there are a lot of, not just big words, but there are a lot of like, it's a lot of flowery language. There's a lot of purple prose. And so it requires slow, kind of steady reading to assess what information you're being given. So, you know, but it's enjoyable. I say that. It is enjoyable. It's just very dark. It's very dark and very symbolic. Female experience. But yeah, I've decided I'm not going to eat my burrito because it has cheese in it, and cheese is actually really bad. Cheese, milk, any dairy is really bad to consume when you are speaking a lot. Really, really bad. Well, not really, really bad. It's just not... Your voice isn't gonna last as long. You know what I mean? Your voice isn't gonna last as long. Voodoo Gaming, hello, hello, hello. Operator Emma, hello, hello, hello. Bonjour. Hello, hello, hello. Also, I forgot to let you guys know, but the game that I said that I was gonna play for you guys, that I got a key for, that is no longer the case. I will no longer be playing that game due to the fact that I have discovered that they used AI assets in their game. And when I brought that up on the Discord server, I was not met with understanding, but instead was met with them telling me to give them a chance because poor them. I told them I'm more than happy to play the game when they remove those AI assets, but they wanted a pat on the back for being transparent about it, and I wasn't giving it to them because I don't function that way. Expedition 33, I heard about a French interview where they admit to using AI more than initially told. Oh, this isn't even Expedition 33, but that's the exact reason why I don't play Expedition 33. Because, you know, I even said this is a small indie game, so, like, I don't know, don't send hate their way or anything like that. I just won't be playing this game, on stream. You know, they can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want, but it just didn't make sense to me. The game is called like 80s Bar Simulator, I think. Yeah, so it's called Under the Disco Lights. I will not be supporting them. Until they remove stuff. But the thing that frustrates me is that it's a cool concept. An 80s bar simulator. I love simulator games. I love 80s music. And the two aspects in which they've used AI are the two aspects which are incredibly important to the concept of that game. So music and the art is where they used AI. Now, before I knew this was AI, before I knew that they had used AI, generative AI, I want to specify, before I knew this, I actually was going to reach out to them to see if they wanted help with their marketing for free, because that's what I do. I love indie games so much that I didn't join this industry for the money of it. I joined it for the love of it. If I wanted to make money, I would have gone on to become a lawyer or gone on to work in healthcare or gone on to do something that has more sustainability. But I didn't, because I love the creativity and the art of gaming. I didn't tell them this, but when I tried to explain to them, like, you know, most people do not mind waiting extra long for a game to come out if you do not have the funds for art and music. And they said, well, it wasn't really them. Someone else was like, basically butt sniffing them and being like, oh, well, you know, that's not true. AI isn't taking people's lives. AI, you know, taking people's livelihoods. AI isn't. It's a whole thing. I have screenshots. Like, it's just, it was a whole discussion, and it was really infuriating me because I was like, I have literally played games made by small studios where they don't use AI. And I'm really sorry, but if you are not skilled enough to get all the things that you need to make your game, why are you making the game in the first place? Right? How is that sustainable? Right? Again, this is just because I'm frustrated because I was so excited for this game. Like, I was like, oh, that's a really cool concept. Oh, that's a really, like, wow. And they did say that, like, when they do get the money, they'll put it towards art and music. But I don't know if I can trust you with that, because you just might be like, wait, hold on, we can make our pockets bigger. Fuck giving it to the game. Everybody's satisfied with the AI we've put in anyway. Silksong is a game that has no AI. In Stars and Time is a game that has no AI. Little Goody Two Shoes, a game that has no AI. Peak, a game that has no AI. Outbound, a game that has no AI. Mally's, a game that has no AI. There are so many. It's like no excuse. When I hear that, I'm like, you're unfortunately not built for this industry. That's what I think. So because of that, I will not be supporting them until they remove the AI assets. But even if they say they do, I don't even know if I can trust that they will. So I probably wouldn't even play it anyways. But Peak was Baby No Money, and that's worse. Eh? Baby No Money had nothing to do with Peak. I know they did some social media stuff, but I don't really care. Nier Automata. I mean, that's not really indie, that's AAA, but Nier Automata, no AI. Like, there's so many games. Who the fuck is Baby No Money? Oh, I don't even know how to describe him to you. I don't know how to describe him to you. He's like TikTok famous. He's TikTok popular, I guess. He makes music. The music is very good for trending sounds. And not really anything else in my opinion, but some people like him, so, you know. There also was some drama of him, like, not crediting people and not paying his artists on time and paying his artists cheaper rates than what their rates were, and there's a whole bunch of drama with Baby No Money and commissioning people, so I don't know. I don't follow him. I think his music's good for trending sounds. I don't like his music. Like, I wouldn't listen to it on a regular basis, but that is just me. Do-do-dee-dee. La 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 la. That is just me. That is just me. But yeah, I will not be playing that game. I will not be playing it. I want to dedicate my time to people who do not relent, to people who do not give in. You know? That's what I want. That's what I want. So, Alice Madness returns. No AI. No AI. Here's the thing. I told these people, look, I have industry, I work in this industry. I know what it's like. And I know that generative AI has ruined lives. With the mass layoffs and everything like that, you know, it's ruined lives. And this other butt-sniffing person who was, like, trying to get so far up their arse to be an arse kisser, like, it was actually ridiculous. They were just like constantly trying to have a discussion with me, and I was like, I'm glad you want to have a discussion about this, but this is my opinion, and this is my belief, and this is what I'm standing on. I'm standing on business, right? My community, in no way possible would I intentionally expose my community to AI slop. Because that's what it is. It is slop. Regardless of how good you think it is, I'm sorry, your standards are so low. I refuse. I wouldn't do it. When there are people... Hell, Tony, what's his name? Tony Fox made Undertale with no AI. Bro is making Deltarune, fair enough, with a small team. Toby, there we go. Toby Fox, no AI. Deltarune, right? He's making Deltarune. Toby has a disability, right? Is still making that game with the help of others, but is still making that game. There is no excuse. There is no excuse. There is literally no excuse that I can think of. There are people out there who have handicaps and are finding ways around it. If you cannot do that, you are failing in some place. You are doing something wrong, because it is possible. It is. It is. So, yeah, I will not be playing that game. I will not be playing it. Hello, Carolina. Operator Emma says, I have chronic finger pain and I've been a writer all my life. Right? You find ways. You find ways around it. You find ways to navigate. You find ways to achieve the thing that needs to get done. You do. And the thing is, if you're gonna use... And this is how I know that, like, they probably have some shame about it, right? They probably felt like it was their only choice. And I don't believe English is their first language, right? So... I could tell there was some shame about it when they were like, please just give it a chance. We tried really hard. We've worked on this for a year. And in my mind, I'm like, a year is not a long time to work on a game. You guys have been brain rotted by like instant gratification of getting your games within a year by AAA companies. Indie does not work that way. Before I was added to the production of my first ever shipped game, before I started working for the game studio, they had already been working on it and writing it for like 2-3 years, right? And that's with no funding. They didn't have a publisher at that point, right? They didn't have a publisher. So when you talk about, oh, but you know, we worked on it for a year, you're trying to speed run this experience. That's your problem. You're trying to get things out now. Why? Why? What are you afraid of? Wouldn't you rather take the time to make your game special so it's not like any other simulator? Rather than churning out something that you then have to patch and update and patch and update. And the thing is, even with using AI for your art and music, a ton of people are giving feedback that your game's still broken. So obviously the part that you were supposed to do still isn't polished or good enough. So like, anyways, that's enough of me. Z is asking what we're reading. We are reading The Bloody Chamber. We are currently reading The Lady of the House of Love, which is like a vampire, Cinderella-esque Sleeping Beauty mix short story. So that is what we're doing, but we're taking a small break. Or we were taking a small break. And I shall get back to it. Okie dokie, artichoke. So, man has arrived to mysterious vampire village. Man has been lured to the house of said vampire, which is Nosferatu's castle. Man had bike stolen by vampire. She has put it in shed and is not oiling it. Boo-hoo, bad woman. That's the TLDR of what we've read so far. Oh, God. The crone took him to a little chamber where there was a black oak table spread with a clean white cloth, and this cloth was carefully laid with heavy silverware, a little tarnished, as if someone with foul breath had breathed on it, but laid with one place only. Curiouser and curiouser, invited to the castle for dinner, and now he must dine alone. All the same, he sat down as she had bid him. Although it was not yet dark outside, the curtains were closely drawn and only the sparing light trickling from an single oil lamp, showed him how dismal his surroundings were. The crone bustled about to get him a bottle of wine and a glass from an ancient cabinet of wormy oak. While he bemusedly drank his wine, she disappeared but soon returned, bearing a steaming platter of the local spiced meat stew, with dumplings and a shank of black bread. He was hungry after his long day's ride. He ate heartily and polished his plate with the crust. But this coarse food was hardly the entertainment he'd expected from the gentry, and he was puzzled by the assessing glint in the dumb woman's eyes as she watched him eating. But she darted off to get him a second helping as soon as he'd finished the first, and she seemed so friendly and helpful. Besides, that he knew he could count on a bed for the night in the castle, as well as his supper, so he sharply reprimanded himself for his own childish lack of enthusiasm for the eerie silence, the clammy chill of the place. When he'd put away the second plateful, the old woman came and gestured he should leave the table and follow her once again. She made a pantomime of drinking. He deduced he was now invited to take after-dinner coffee in another room, with some more elevated member of the household who had not wished to dine with him, but, all the same, wanted to make his acquaintance. An honour, no doubt. In deference to his host's opinion of himself, he straightened his tie, brushed the crumbs from his tweed jacket. He was surprised to find how ruinous the interior of the house was. Cobwebs, worm-eaten beams, crumbling plaster, but the mute crone resolutely wound him on the reel of her lantern down endless corridors, up winding staircases, through the galleries where the painted eyes of family portraits briefly flickered as they passed, eyes that belonged, he noticed, to faces, one and all of quite memorable beastliness. At last she paused, and behind the door where they'd halted, he heard a faint metallic twang, as if, perhaps, a chord struck on a harpsichord. This man's bike has still been stolen. And then, wonderfully, the liquid cascade of the song of a lark bringing to him in the heart, had he but known fit, of Juliet's tomb, all the freshness of morning. The crone rapped her knuckles on the panels, the most seductively caressing voice he had ever heard in his life softly called out, in heavily accented French, which I will not be doing, the adopted language of the Romanian acrotices. Entrez. First of all, he saw only a shape imbued with faint luminosity, since it caught and reflected in its yellowed surfaces what little light there was in the ill-lit room. This shape resolved itself into that of all things, a hoop-skirted dress of white, satin draped here and there with lace, a dress 50 or 60 years out of fashion, but once obviously intended for a wedding. And then he saw the girl who wore the dress, a girl with the fragility of the skeleton of a moth, so thin, so frail, that her dress seemed to him to hang suspended, as if untenated in the dank air, a fabulous lending, a self-articulated garment in which she lived like a ghost in a machine. All the light in the room came from a low-burning lamp with a thick greenish shade on a distant mantelpiece. The crone who accompanied him shielded her lantern with her hand as if to protect her mistress from too suddenly seeing, or their guest from too suddenly seeing her. So that it was little by little, as his eye grew accustomed to the half-dark that he saw, how beautiful and how very young the scarecrow was. And he thought of a child dressing up in her mother's clothes, perhaps a child putting on the clothes of a dead mother in order to bring her, however briefly, to life again. The Countess stood behind a low table, beside a pretty, silly gilt and wire birdcage, hands outstretched in a distracted attitude that was almost one of flight. She looked as startled by their entry as if she had not requested it, with her stark white face, her lovely death's head, surrounded by long dark hair that fell down as straight as if it were soaking wet. If she looked like a shipwrecked bride. Her huge dark eyes almost broke his heart with their waif-like, lost look. Yet he was disturbed, almost repelled, by her extraordinarily fleshy mouth. A mouth wide, full, prominent lips of a vibrant purplish crimson. A morbid mouth. Even, but he put the thought away from him immediately, a whore's mouth. Damn. She shivered all the time. A starveling chill. A malarial agitation of the bones. He thought she must be only 16 or 17 years. No more. With the hectic, unhealthy beauty of a consumptive. She was the chatelaine of all this decay. I almost said decline. With many tender precautions, the crone now raised the light she held to show his hostess her guest's face. At that, the Countess let out a faint, mewing cry and made a blind, appalled gesture with her hands as if pushing him away, so that she knocked against the table and a butterfly dazzle of painted cards fell to the floor. Is he that ugly? Her mouth formed a round O of woe. She swayed a little and then sank into her chair, where she lay as if now scarcely capable of moving. A bewildering reception. Tisking under her breath, the crone busily poked about on the table until she found an enormous pair of dark green glasses, such as blind beggars wear, and perched them on the Countess's nose. He went forward to pick up her cards for her from a carpet that, he saw to his surprise, was part rotted away, partly encroached upon by all kinds of virulent-looking fungi. He retrieved the cards and shuffled them carelessly together, for they meant nothing to him, though they seemed strange playthings for a young girl. What a grisly picture of a capering skeleton. He covered it up with a happier one, of two young lovers smiling at one another, and put her toys back into a hand so slender you could almost see the frail net of bone beneath the translucent skin. A hand with fingernails as long, as finely pointed as banjo picks. At his touch, she seemed to revive a little and almost smiled, raising herself upright. "Coffee," she said. "You must have coffee." And scooped up her cards into a pile so that the crone could set before her a silver spirit kettle, a silver coffee pot, cream jug, sugar basin, cups ready on a silver tray. A strange touch of elegance, even if discoloured. In this devastated interior whose mattress ethereally shone as if with her own blighted submarine radiance. The crone found him a chair, and tittering noiselessly departed, leaving the room a little darker. While the young lady attended to the coffee making, he had time to contemplate with some distaste of a further series of family portraits which decorated the stained and peeling walls of the room. These livid faces all seemed contorted with a febrile madness, and the blubber lips, the huge demented eyes that all had in common bore a disquieting resemblance to those of a hapless victim of inbreeding, now patiently filtering her fragrant brew. Even if some rare grace has so finely transformed those features when it came to her case, the lark, its chorus done, had long ago fallen silent. No sound but the clink of silver on china. Soon, she held out to him a tiny cup of rose-painted china. "Welcome," she said in her voice, with the rushing sonorities of the ocean in it, a voice that seemed to come elsewhere than from her white, still throat. "Welcome to my chateau. I rarely receive visitors, and that's a misfortune, since nothing animates me half as much as the presence of a stranger. This place is so lonely. Now the village is deserted, and my one companion, alas, she cannot speak. Often I am so silent that I think I too will soon forget how to do so, and nobody here will ever talk any more." She offered him a sugar biscuit from a Limoges plate. Her fingernails struck carillons from the ancient china. Or antique china, because I can read. Her voice issuing from those red lips like the Abyssal roses in her garden, lips that do not move. Her voice is curiously disembodied. She is like a doll, he thought, a ventriloquist doll, or more like a great ingenious piece of clockwork. For she seemed inadequately powered by some slow energy of which she was not in control. As if she had been wound up years ago when she was born, and now the mechanism was inexorably running down and would leave her lifeless. This idea that she might be an automation made of white velvet and black fur that could not move of its own accord never quite deserted him. Indeed, it deeply moved its heart. The carnival air of her white dress emphasized her unreality, like a sad Columbine who lost her way in the wood a long time ago and never reached the fair. And the light. I must apologize for the lack of light. A hereditary affliction of the eyes. Her blind spectacles gave him his handsome face back to himself twice over. If he presented himself to her naked face, he would dazzle her like the sun she is forbidden to look at, because it would shrivel her up at once. Poor night bird. Poor butcher bird. And there's a French sentence that I don't know how to say. Vous serez ma pour... Yep, gonna give up. You have such a fine throat, monsieur. Like a column of marble. When you came through the door, retaining about you all the golden light of the summer's day, of which I know nothing. Nothing. The card called Les Amoureux had just emerged from the tumbling chaos of imagery before me. It seemed to me you had stepped off the card into my darkness, and for a moment I thought perhaps you might irradiate it. I do not mean to hurt you. I shall wait for you in my bride's dress in the dark. The bridegroom is come. He will go into the chamber which has been prepared for him. I am condemned to solitude and dark. I do not mean to hurt you. I will be very gentle. And could you love me from the shadows? Can a bird sing only the song it knows, or can it learn a new song? See how I'm ready for you? I've always been ready for you. I've been waiting for you in my wedding dress. Why have you delayed for so long? It will all be over very quickly. You will feel no pain, my darling. She herself is a haunted house. She does not possess herself. Her ancestors sometimes come and peer out of the windows of her eyes, and that is very frightening. She has the mysterious solitude of ambiguous states. She hovers in a no-man's land between life and death, sleeping and waking. Behind the hedge of spiked flowers, Nosferatu's sanguinary rosebud. The beastly forebears on the walls condemn her to a perpetual repetition of their passions. One kiss, however, and only one, woke up the sleeping beauty in the wood. Nervously, to conceal her inner voices, she kept up a front of inconsequential chatter in French, while her ancestors leer and grimace on the walls. However hard she tries to think of any other, she only knows of one kind of consummation. He was struck once again by the bird-like predatory claws which tipped her marvellous hands. The sense of strangeness that had been growing on him since he buried his head under the streaming water in the village, since he entered the dark portals of the fatal castle, now fully overcame him. Had he been a cat, he would have bounced backwards from her hands on 4 fear-stiffened legs. But he is not a cat. He is a hero. A fundamental disbelief in what he sees before him sustains him. Even in the boudoir of Countess Nosferatu herself, he would have said, perhaps, that there are some things which, even if they are true, we should not believe possible. He might have said, it is folly to believe one's eyes, not so much that he does not believe in her, he can see her, she is real. If she takes off her dark glasses, from her eyes will stream all the images that populate this vampire-haunted land. But since he himself is immune to shadow, due to his virginity, he does not yet know what there is to be afraid of. And due to his heroism, wow. Damn, a stroke? Live? That's crazy. Which makes him like the sun he sees before him, first and foremost an inbred, highly strung girl child, fatherless, motherless, alright, Jesus, kept in the dark too long, and pale as a plant that never sees the light, half blinded by some hereditary condition of the eyes. And though he feels unease, he cannot feel terror. So he is like the boy in the fairy tale, who does not know how to shudder, and not spooks, ghouls, beasties, and the devil himself, and all his retinue could do the trick. This lack of imagination gives his heroism to the hero. He will learn to shudder in the trenches, but this girl cannot make him shudder. Now it is dark. Bats swoop and squeak outside the tightly shuttered windows. The coffee is all drunk, the sugar biscuits eaten. Her chatter comes trickling and diminishing to a stop. She twists her fingers together, picks at the lace on her dress, shifts nervously in her chair. Owls shriek. The impedimenta of her condition squeak and gibber all around us. Now you are at the place of annihilation. Now you are at the place of annihilation. She turns her head away from the blue beams of his eyes. She knows no other consummation than the only one she can offer him. She has not eaten for 3 days. It is dinner time. It is bedtime. Suivez-moi, je vous attendais. And I won't say more because my French is terrible. The raven caws on the accursed roof. Dinner time, dinner time. Clang the portraits on the walls. A ghastly hunger gnaws her entrails. She has waited for him all her life without knowing it. The handsome bicyclist, scarcely believing his luck, will follow her into her bedroom. The candles around her sacrificial altar burn with a low, clear flame. Light catches on the silver tears stitched to the wall. She will assure him, in the very voice of temptation, My clothes have but to fall, and you will see before you a succession of mysteries. She has no mouth with which to kiss, no hands with which to caress, only the fangs and talons of a beast of prey to touch. The mineral sheen of the flesh revealed in the cool candle gleam is to invite her fatal embrace. In her low, sweet voice, she will croon the lullaby of the house of Nosferatu. Embraces, kisses your golden head of a lion, although I have never seen a lion, only imagined one. Of the sun, even if I've only seen the picture of the sun on a tarot card. Your golden head of the lover whom I dreamed would one day free me. This head will fall back, its eyes roll upwards in a spasm you will mistake for that of love and not of death. The bridegroom bleeds on my inverted marriage bed. Stark and dead, poor basilisk. He has paid the price of a night with the Countess, and some think it too high a fee, while some do not. Tomorrow, her keeper will bury his bones under her roses. The food her roses feed on gives their rich colour, their swooning odour that breathes lasciviously of forbidden pleasures. The handsome bicyclist, fearful for his hostess's health, her sanity, gingerly follows her hysterical imperiousness into the other room. He would like to take her into his arms and protect her from the ancestors who leer down from the walls. What a macabre bedroom. His colonel, an old goat with jaded appetites, had given him the visiting card of a brothel in Paris where, the satyr assured him, 10 louis would buy just such a luxurious bedroom, with a naked girl upon a coffin. Off stage, the brothel pianist played the Dies Irae on a harmonium, and, amidst all the perfumes of the embalming parlour, the customer took his necrophiliac pleasure of a pretended corpse. He had good-naturedly refused the old man's offer of such an invitation. How can he now take criminal advantage of a disordered girl with fever-hot, bone-dry, taloned hands and eyes that deny all the erotic promises of her body with their terror, their sadness, their dreadful bulked tenderness? So delicate and damned, poor thing. Quite damned. Yet I do believe she scarcely knows what she is doing. She is shaking, as if her limbs were not efficiently joined together, as if she might shake into pieces. She raises her hands to unfasten the neck of her dress, and her eyes well with tears. They trickle down beneath the rim of her dark glasses. She can't take off her mother's wedding dress unless she takes off her dark glasses. She has fumbled the ritual. It is no longer inexorable. The mechanism within her fails her, now when she needs it most. When she takes off the dark glasses, they slip from her fingers and smash to pieces on the tile floor. There is no room in her drama for improvisation, and that is unexpected. Mundane noise of breaking glass breaks the wicked spell in the room entirely. She gapes blindly down at the splinters and ineffectively smears the tears across her face with her fist. What is she to do now? When she kneels to try to gather the fragments of glass together, a sharp silver pierces deeply into the pad of her thumb. She cries out, sharp, real. She kneels among the broken glass and watches the bright bead of blood form a drop. She has never seen her own blood before. Not her own blood. It exercises upon her an awed fascination. Into this vile and murderous room, the handsome bicyclist brings the innocent remedies of the nursery. In himself, by his presence, he is an exorcism. He gently takes her hand away from her and dabs the blood with his own handkerchief, but it still spurts out, and so he puts his mouth to the wound. He will kiss it better for her, as her mother, had she lived, would have done. All the silver tears fall from the wall with a flimsy tinkle. Her painted ancestors turn away their eyes and grind their fangs. How can she bear the pain of becoming human? The end of exile is the end of being. He was awakened by lark song. The shutters, the curtains, even the long-sealed windows of the horrid bedroom were all opened up, and light and air steamed in. Now you could see how tawdry it all was, how thin and cheap the satin, the catafalque not ebony at all, but painted black, paper stretched on struts of wood, as in the theatre. The wind had blown droves of petals from the roses outside into the room, and this crimson residue swirled fragrantly about the floor. The candles had burnt out, and she must have set her pet lark free because it perched on the edge of the silly coffin to sing him its aesthetic morning song. His bones were stiff and aching. He slept on the floor with his bundled-up jacket for a pillow after he'd put her to bed. But now there was no trace of her to be seen, except lightly tossed across the crumpled black satin bed cover, a lace negligee lightly soiled with blood, as if it had been from a woman's menses, and a rose that must have come from the fierce bushes nodding through the window. The air was heavy with incense and roses and made him cough. The Countess must have got up early to enjoy the sunshine, slipped outside to gather him a rose. He got to his feet, coaxed the lark onto his wrist, and took it to the window. At first, it exhibited the reluctance for the sky of a long caged thing, but when he tossed it up onto the currents of the air, it spread its wings and was up and away into the clear blue bowl of the heavens. He watched its trajectory with a lift of joy in his heart. Then he padded into the boudoir, his mind busy with plans. We shall take her to Zurich, to a clinic. She will be treated for nervous hysteria. Then to an eye specialist for her photophobia, and to a dentist to put her teeth into better shape. Any competent manicurist will deal with her claws. We shall turn her into the lovely girl she is. I shall cure her of all these nightmares. The heavy curtains are pulled back to let in brilliant fusillades of early morning light. In the desolation of the boudoir, she sits at her round table in her white dress, with the cards laid out before her. She has dropped off to sleep over the cards of destiny that are so fingered, so soiled, so worn by constant shuffling that you can no longer make the image out on any single one of them. She is not sleeping. In death, she looked far older, less beautiful, and so, for the first time, fully human. I will vanish in the morning light. I was only an invention of darkness, and I will leave you as a souvenir the dark fanged rose I plucked from between my thighs, like a flower laid on a grave. On a grave. My keeper will attend to everything. Nosferatu always attends his own obsequies. She will not go to the graveyard unattended. And now the crone materialized, weeping, and roughly gestured him to be gone. After a search in some foul-smelling outhouses, he discovered his bicycle, and abandoning his holiday, rode directly to Bucharest, where, at the poste restante, he found a telegram summoning him to rejoin his regiment at once. Much later, when he changed back into uniform in his quarters, he discovered he still had the Countess's rose. He must have tucked it into the breast pocket of his cycling jacket after he found her body. Curiously enough, although he had brought it so far away from Romania, the flower did not seem to be quite dead, and on impulse, because the girl had been so lovely and her death so unexpected and pathetic, he decided to try and resurrect her rose. He filled his tooth glass with water from the carafe on his locker and popped the rose into it, so that its withered head floated to the surface. When he returned from the mess that evening, the heavy fragrance of the Count Nosferatu's roses drifted down the stone corridor of the barracks to greet him, and his Spartan quarters brimmed with the reeling odor of a glowing, velvet, monstrous flower whose petals had regained all their former bloom and elasticity, their corrupt, brilliant, baleful splendor. Next day, his regiment embarked for France. That is the end. That was The Lady of the House of Love by Angela Carter from the series The Bloody Chamber. Wah-bah-bah-bah. Goddamn. Goddamn. When he had said that she had a whore's mouth, I was like, hello? Hemwo? What do you mean? Hemwo? What do you mean? What do you mean she has a whore's mouth? What do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you mean? I hope you guys enjoyed. That will be the... Sorry, I keep hearing something bang against the wall that connects me to my roommates, and I'm like, is someone knocking? Am I being too loud? Or is it something else falling over? I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter is a feminist retelling of the Grimm's fairy tales. Some stories mishmash a lot of different fairy tales. Others are just purely based off of the fairy tales that we know and love. For example, Puss in Boots is just inspired by Puss in Boots. The one that we just read, which is The Lady of the House of Love, is inspired by like a vampire Cinderella Sleeping Beauty retelling. With the roses and the skin, the hair, and the bleeding, and so if you enjoyed that, please go pick up this book, because there are like 7 other stories that we have not covered that are included in here. As you can see, was The Bloody Chamber inspired or original? It was inspired. It's inspired by Bluebeard. By the Tale of Bluebeard. The only thing that I found frustrating is the amount of French words! Stop giving me French words! I know these fairy tales are all like European and bleh, but god damn it! Ugh, French words, man. Got me tripping. Got me slipping. Shake my head. Never heard of Bluebeard before? You should go check it out. You should go check it out. That's the thing. Some stories, some Grimm's fairy tales, like I've not read all of Grimm's fairy tales, right? Because I don't know, I feel like you had to live in a certain kind of household in order to read these kind of fairy tales. Most fairy tales that I know are like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, like I don't really know anything outside of that. So when I was first given the task, because this book was a book that we studied in... When did I get you? The Bloody Chamber. This was a book that I studied in secondary school, so... 17, 16, 17. I'm gonna say 17. 17, 16 was the age that we had to study this. I believe I was doing it for A levels. And when we read it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. And the thing is, it's not that it's like, oh, it's taking stories and it's making them feminist. It's like, no, it's just, I feel like it just enhances the implications of those fairy tales and then drives that to 100. You know what I mean? It takes that to 100. Again, I know The Snow Child was incredibly short, but it's like I said, I did say, I think I said to Black Garuga when we were talking, I was like, you guys picked a story that is one of the shortest, but also like it's a doozy. It's very blunt and quick, and you don't really have much time to get your bearings. And then when you do get your bearings, you're like, wait a minute, it's done? That's it? That's the story? He does that to her and then they leave? So, you know. Hello, Excellento. Hello, hello, hello. And also to the new person in chat, hi, sorry that I didn't respond to your message. Just Jeffrey. I was in the reading zone and there were a lot of French words, so I had to really focus. But, yeah. Guys, The Bloody Chamber and Other Stories, Angela Carter, great time. Well, it's not a great time for the characters, but great time, great vibe. I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it? What do you guys feel like you've learnt today? What do you name one thing that you've learnt today from listening to these stories? Yeah? What have you learnt from these books? That's gonna be your takeaway. What have you learnt from the stories that we've read today? I'm looking for like one specific answer, but I'm willing to take others. That is the exact opposite of what the takeaway is. And the thing, do you know what? As I was reading this story out, I was like, Legacy's gonna be like, me for real. Oh my god. God damn it. I immediately knew. It's like my brain knew. My brain was just like, Legacy's gonna be like, oh, but I wouldn't mind being that guy. Oh. I knew it. I could sense it. But it's a very interesting story because you spend the first half of the story in her solitude, and in this kind of locked, because it wasn't willing, right? It wasn't a willing transformation into vampirism, and so she's left into this isolation, into this place where she's locked between hunger, that overwhelming desire to consume, whilst also feeling incredibly guilty about the things that she does, right? The things that she did. Meanwhile, like she is a predator in an animalistic sense. She is a beast. She is an animal. That is how she is portrayed, just like her ancestors, in which like inbreeding was mentioned, which I was like, ugh, hate that. But you know, she's portrayed as this animal, as this dangerous creature, as this, you know, individual that hurts, and it's not that she doesn't know why, but she doesn't want to, right? She wants to resist that urge, but it's the only way she knows how, and you know, she lives alone, so what else can you do? And then you have the descriptions of her and how the narrator or the book sees her, and that is a creature perpetually locked in motion like a machine, which is a very interesting description that you do not often see with vampires, right? You see them sexy, you see them like, oh, they've been frozen in time, but never you would never coincide descriptions of like machinery or clockwork to go with something like a vampire, or you know, any werewolf or any kind of supernatural creature. So it was really interesting. And then you have the guy who comes in and is very much doing a legacy where it's almost like oblivious, and they say it comes down to his like virginity. He hasn't seen the darkness of the world yet, because he hasn't been sent to the front lines. The whole thing is that he's in the army, he's taking a sabbatical, or not a sabbatical, he's taking a short break, a short holiday, because he can, away until his regiment calls him back, and he hasn't seen the traumatizing aspects of war. He hasn't had those glasses, those kind of rose-tinted glasses, symbolism of roses. He hasn't had that shatter for him, right? He hasn't had that change for him. And so he sees this very dangerous woman, which any other person would be like, dear God, this is not okay. And he's like, immediately assumes that she needs to be protected, which is not a bad thing, because she was fragile. She was a fragile creature in her own sensibilities. But, you know, he saw all the warning signs and decided to throw them in the bin. Do you know what I think? I think bro was just so hyper-focused on the fact that his bike had been stolen that he was just like, yeah, long nails, yeah, sharp teeth, yeah, looking ethereal and glowy, yeah, whatever. My bike, this woman, she's stolen my bike, guys. My bike, you know? So I think it was that, but it was very interesting that the moment she spills her, I mean, blood has a lot of symbolism, but it's the fact that, like, you know, she is pulled by this urge to obviously consume him, as vampire needs dictate, but during the case of doing so, she is so nervous that she fumbles, right? And even just experiencing like the spilling of her own blood, him sucking on that blood as a mother would was the description, but like tending to her like a fawn in need of protecting, despite him being the prey, is just a very interesting dynamic, a very interesting play on dynamic. And the fact that him doing so is what made her human and ultimately caused her to die. And the symbolism of her becoming human and menstruating, essentially, the moment she becomes human, it's just, guys, it's almost like she lost her innocence again, and then I could go into a whole talk. You guys aren't interested, though. You guys don't want to hear me yap for another hour about this story. You don't want it, okay? But anyways, go and pick up a copy. The Bloody Chamber and Other Stories. Angela Carter, this isn't the only book that she's written. She has written, I'm trying to see, what other books has she written? Okay, so her first book was Shadow Dance, and that was published in 1965. And then The Magic Toy Shop, which is 1967. Several Perceptions, which was 1968. Heroes at Jesus Christ, hold on, 1975, 1967. 2 years and a 1 year apart. And then, oh man, I need to I need to work on my stories. That's crazy. This woman was like, yeah, here's my first story, Shadow Dance in 1965. And then, yeah, The Magic Toy Shop in 1967. That's 2 years later. She was straight putting out them stories. Several Perceptions, 1968. Heroes and Villains, 1969. Love, 1971. The Infernal Desire Machines of Dr. Hoffman, 1972. The Passion of New Eve in 1977. Nights at the Circus, 1984. And Wise Children, 1991. So when was this released? Tell me, when were you released? It doesn't tell me. Okay, so it was published by Vintage in 2006. But it was copyrighted of her 1979. Like it says, imagine not having menstruated for years and then when you do it for the first time, you die. Honestly, from what I have, seems accurate. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. I thoroughly enjoy listening to your thoughts. Thank you. I do like to ramble. It's just these are the stories. These are the stories in which you can like really get into the nitty gritty and like pick things apart word by word, because because that matters. Not to say that it doesn't matter with modern storytelling, but I feel like with a lot of people nowadays, like everybody. And I've had this rant before, but everybody used to do the whole like, oh, the curtains were blue because the curtains were blue, right? And now they're like, why weren't we taught media literacy? Why weren't we taught that? And it's like, yeah, the curtains are blue to symbolize da-da-da-da. That is media literacy. That's literacy, that's media literacy, that's just how it works. That's how it works. There is meaning in everything, even in a thing that you think is a throwaway gesture or comment or construct. They are all the product of circumstances, and they are all the product of active decisions, even subconscious decisions, which all stem psychologically from somewhere. So yes, things mean things, which doesn't sound like a big breakthrough quote to say, but it does. And so with these books, it is not only a product of its time, but it's also a product of the individual who wrote it, right? Unfiltered, undistracted by modern technology and modern problems, only influenced by their current circumstance. Which at the time might have been war, it might have been poverty, it might have been all sorts of things, which is so fascinating, right? This woman, who had written multiple stories, was like, what if I took fairy tales that everybody loves so much and just freaking showed them what for? What if I just showed them what for? What if I took these stories and said, okay, let's look at it from a feminist perspective. Let's look at it from a, the perspective of a woman, right? During a time when no one would really care about that. That's cool. And not a lot of people will like this book. They'll be like, oh, it's too showy. Oh, it's doing too much. That's fine. It's not for everyone. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Ian McEwan said, magnificent set pieces of fastidious sensuality. Yes. Dark, sensual, fantastic stories. Bravo! Breva. Bravo, Breather. But yeah, because we finished that, we should figure out what our next book is going to be for next month. I'm trying to be a little careful because my intention is to read a few modern books, or to focus on a few modern books written by POC authors, queer authors, POC queer authors, and just diversity, bringing some diversity to a genre which is fantasy or fiction, which is just heavily full of white people, heavily full of white people. So there are a few stories that I have in mind, and I will make a poll. Oh, wait 1 second. Sorry. Nah, that's not the right music. That's not the right vibe. I'm looking for the vibe. Where's my vibe? Let's use it. It's not the vibe I'm going for, but okay. Yeah. I know people had suggestions. I only ask that if you're going to suggest a story, make sure it's within the parameters of what I'm looking for. Otherwise, I will just say no. Because there's, every person every person who does like a reading ASMR stream will most likely pick that book. I'm looking for authors that people are just not wanting to, that just don't bring or shine a light on, For example, one of the books that I'm leaning towards putting on the poll is called A Thieves' Heist. It is a young adult novel, fantasy written by a POC author, an American POC author, and when I read it, I was just like, it's just gonna be a book I read and then I'm gonna see how it goes. Like, I'm trying to broaden out my writing, blah blah blah. I was kind of hooked. I was kind of like, uh-oh, wait a minute, hold on, this is enjoyable, because not every book needs to be world breaking. This is enjoyable. This is fantastic. Wow. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas like that, let me know. But because we are done here, whoa, why are you suddenly loud? What the hell happened? Because we are done here, I shall bid you all adieu. Thank you for joining, thank you for attending, thank you for being here. This is always fun. Hopefully with the next book, and if it's like a full-on book, not short stories, we will be finishing the entirety of that book, just because it makes sense. But yeah, what was I saying? I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So yeah, I will let you know when next poll goes up, and I shall see you this Friday for our playing with viewers stream. We're going to be playing some Outbound, so you guys better be there, 6 p.m. BST. We're going to be playing some Outbound together. It's going to be fun. Don't steal my supplies, don't ruin my things, okay? I worked really hard. You were there. You saw me work hard, okay? And then Saturday is just going to be another chill, just chatting stream. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful night. Good night, sleep tight, and only let the demoness bite. Bye everybody, night, take care so long, take care so long, take care so long, good night, take care so long, take care.